felt ill, and I must have looked it. Opal's eyes brimmed with tears, and her chin quivered as she spoke. Hey, how are you guys today? Glad you could join me. We're here for David Walliams' Ice Monster. But before we get into that, I wanted to share with you a book that I've really enjoyed, and I find it quite interesting. How many of you, by show of hands, know the story of Rumpelstiltskin? Come on, show your hands. Most of you know Rumpelstiltskin. Great. So this is a book, and it's kind of like if you've ever heard the story, the true story of the Three Little Pigs. This is Rumpelstiltskin's version of what happened. So it's a very fun book to read, and I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. Check it out at our school library. But the real reason why you're here is for our next chapter in David Walliams' Ice Monster. Today we are on chapters 29 and 30. Let's get started. Chapter 29, Dino Ladder. Down in the main hall, the professor was sitting in his wheelchair, staring up at the ice monster. Frozen air was smoldering from the glass tank. Elsie dashed down the steps to join him. "The ice, it's melting," she exclaimed. "Yes, child. I turned off the cooling system," replied the professor. "Otherwise, we would never get the end of that copper wire into the creature's heart." "But what if we bring it back to life and it immediately drowns in the water?" "I've thought of that, young lady. That's what this is for." From under his wheelchair, he produced a frightening tool that looked halfway between a hammer and an axe. "A pickaxe?" "Yes, child. This will break through that glass now. Are you ready?" "Ready for what?" "To dive into the tank, of course." "Me?" "Yes, you. I can't swim. What if I drown?" The professor thought for a moment. Then, urchin, you will be immortalized." "Immortalized?" "Yes, immortalized. For a short footnote in the story of how I, the great professor, brought the ice monster back to life. Now climb up the top of the tank." Elsie looked around the hall. "Have you got a ladder, Professor?" she asked. The man's expression darkened. "Whoops," he replied. "I forgot that." "Not so great after all, are you?" mused the girl. The professor gripped the pickaxe tightly. "I'll find a way, Elsie." "I'll find a way," said Elsie. She looked around the main hall for anything that could be used as a stepladder. Elsie realized that the answer was standing right next to her. "The Diplodocus!" she exclaimed. The enormous dinosaur skeleton was towering over her. "You can climb that?" he asked. "Yes, I have monkey feet. I'll think of it as a dino ladder." "What a genius idea of mine," announced the professor. "Then, when you reach the tank, you must swim down to the creature's hut." "I already told you, I can't swim. But I could sink." "What do you mean?" "Professor, may I borrow that pickaxe?" "Be my guest." The girl took it from him. It felt really heavy, but she did her best to pretend it wasn't. She marched over to the glass cabinet that housed a rock the size of a football. Crash! She smashed the glass and heaved out the rock. "That's a meteorite," remarked the professor. "Here you go," she said, passing back the pickaxe. "This meteorite will make me sink." "What a splendid idea of mine," he mused. Elsie placed the end of the copper wire back in her mouth and picked up the rock. Slowly but surely, her monkey feet began stepping along the bones of the tail, as if climbing a dinosaur skeleton. Holding a meteorite weren't hard enough already. It was dark in the museum. The only light was the occasional flash of lightning outside the snow-encrusted windows. "Quickly," ordered the professor. "We're going to lose the lightning." "I'm going as fast as I can," snapped back the girl. The bones themselves were smooth, which meant it was very easy to slip on them. Elsie took it slowly, letting her toes grip as tightly as they could. In a short while they had reached the skeleton's back. This being a much wider part, she managed to speed up. Now the girl was at the base of the neck, and a very long way up. Elsie looked down. That was a mistake. It was a very long way down. Instantly she felt dizzy. She shut her eyes. This just made her feel even wobblier. "Why on earth have you stopped?" "You pathetic, pathetic child." Elsie took a deep breath. A bolt of lightning struck just outside the window, illuminating everything for a split second. The girl knew She had to act now. Still holding the meteorite, she took a step forward, and another, and another. Soon, she was halfway across the skeleton's neck, and within leaping distance of the mammoth tank. Boom! A roll of thunder roared across the sky. It was so loud that the museum shook a little. It made Elsie's heart skip a beat, and she lost her footing. "Ah!" she screamed. Chapter 30. The Heart of the Storm. Elsie tumbled forward, but, by beautiful chance, the back of her coat hooked onto one of the Diplodocus's bones. Without even realizing quite what had happened, the girl found herself swinging in the air, still miraculously holding on to the meteorite. "I'm alive!" she exclaimed. "Yes, I can see that. You foolish child. Now come on. Stop dilly-dallying. We haven't got all night." The girl swung her legs forward and gripped on the neck bones. With her legs wrapped tightly around the exhibit, she unhooked her coat and swung herself back up, using the meteorite for momentum. The skull of the Diplodocus was within spitting distance of the tank. From there, she leaped onto the tank. Doink! The tank was freezing and her toes tingled with the cold. "Have you found the hatch?" demanded the professor. Elsie looked ahead. "Yes." "Unscrew the bolts around the edge." She put down the meteorite and opened the hatch. "Now get in, and push the end of the copper wire into the mammoth's heart, just where I showed you." Elsie nodded, picked up the meteorite, and plunged down into the icy water. Splash! She exclaimed. The cold shocked her, and she could hardly breathe. Still holding the meteorite, she sank like a stone. Within a second, she was at the bottom of the tank. From his wheelchair, the professor frantically pointed out to Elsie where the creature's heart was. Elsie let go of the meteorite and floated upwards, plunging the end of the copper wire deep into the mammoth's chest. Elsie now felt completely out of breath and let herself float back to the top of the tank, her head bobbing through the hatch. She gasped for air. With her entire body shaking from the cold, she hauled herself up on the top of the tank. There she lay, soaking wet and shivering, but thankful to still be alive. "Don't just lie there, child," the professor called up. What now? Look outside the window. We're in the middle of a storm. Time is of the essence. You need to tug the wires 3 times as a signal to Dottie to take off in the hot air balloon." The girl did what she was told. Tug, tug, tug. Next, Elsie leaped off the tank, back onto the Diplodocus skeleton. Within moments, the length of the wire tightened. "Perfect!" called out the professor. Up on the roof of the museum, a cold and miserable Dottie finally got the signal. As fast as she could, she untied the ropes that were holding the basket down and took to the skies. Whoosh! The lady was flying straight into the heart of the storm. Soon, bolts of lightning were exploding all around her. Boom, boom, boom! Against her better judgment, she steered the balloon into the path, and bang! A rush of electricity struck the tin helmet on top of the balloon. Ting! The copper wire glowed with energy, shot through it. Sizzle! "Oh no," whispered Dottie to herself. I think a bit of wee came out." The bolt of lightning sped all the way down the wire to the tower, down the chimney, across the director's office, along the corridor, round the corner, down the steps, and into the tank. The punch of electricity hit the mammoth straight in the heart. They had done it. Or had they? The professor and Elsie looked on as nothing's happened. Nothing at all. Not. Zero. Zilch. "No, it hasn't worked," raged the professor. "Wait," whispered the girl. "I sense something changed." Elsie put her hand up to the glass and looked deep into the mammoth's eye. Unless her mind was playing tricks on her, she was sure the creature was staring back at her. Then the most incredible thing happened. It blinked. "Did you see that, Professor?" exclaimed Elsie. "What?" "It blinked." In his wheelchair, the professor began shaking with excitement. He took a deep breath before proclaiming, "It's alive!" All right, my friends, that is the end of chapters 29 and 30. So, you're ready for this. You, every single one of you, will be answering each and every question with complete sentences. All right, find a good book. If you have a chance, check out Rump by, who's it by? Liesl Shirtliff. Wonderful book. Have a great rest of your day, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.